Jacob Lopez is looking pretty good, Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Wednesday, August 13th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. Today on the show, Roman Anthony is emerging. Back-to-back games with a home run for him. We had huge games from the Mets and the Brewers. The Brew Crew, by the way, 11-0 in August. Best record in baseball. And we'll fire up the Worryometer for some struggling pitchers. Let's jump in.
Holy Toledo! The element of surprise reigns supreme.
All right, let's just kick things off here, Chris, with Jacob Lopez, who was tremendous again, this time against Tampa Bay. 7 shutout innings, 9 strikeouts, 15 whiffs on 96 pitches. And that is 2 starts in a row of at least 7 shutout with 9+ strikeouts here. In fact, he has not allowed an earned run in his past 4 starts, and he is doing things a little bit differently recently. He is throwing his slider more, and he is throwing it with less velocity and getting some really good results with that pitch. The slider in this one had 8 whiffs, a 57% whiff rate, 36% CSW, so that looks like a contributing factor here for Jacob Lopez, who's now down to a 3.30 ERA, 119 whip, 11K per 9. He, I don't know, might be starting to figure things out. 61% rostered. Looks like he could be a 2-star pitcher for next week. Do we change everything we said about waiver wire pitchers yesterday and move Jacob Lopez to the top of that list?
I don't think we have to go that far. We have seen stretches like this from Jacob Lopez before, including, I believe, consecutive 9 strikeout starts back in June. And obviously that did not mean that Jacob Lopez was suddenly a fantasy stalwart. But I am certainly more open to the possibility of that happening. And I do want to point out that I think the slider velocity being lower is an intentional decision. It's not... You see it a little bit with the rest of his arsenal, but the slider has been by far the most down the last 2 starts, and it started 2 starts ago. He's getting both more horizontal and more vertical break on the pitch, and so I think this is a conscious decision to chase more whiffs with that pitch, and the fundamentals with Jacob Lopez haven't necessarily changed, right? He still had, I think, 7 flyouts to 4 groundouts. I guess that's slightly less extreme than we're used to seeing, but he is still arguably the most extreme fly ball pitcher in baseball. He manages hard contact well. He gets a decent amount of strikeouts. His control's been fine. I think all in all, Jacob Lopez is looking like a pretty useful fantasy option. It's just he is the most extreme fly ball pitcher in baseball, pitching in one of the worst home parks for home runs in baseball. So I do think there are just always going to be some limitations on how good he can be because of that. But you don't have to be an ace to be useful. And I certainly don't think Jacob Lopez is an ace right now, but I think he's going to be pretty useful moving forward. I feel pretty good about that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with what we've seen from him. As who would we be comparing him to last night?
I think last night it was mostly Christian Javier, Zebby Matthews. Maybe you throw Darvish in that mix if you trust what he's been doing lately.
I think he's very much in that range. Is he at the top of the list? I think I'd still rather have Zebby Matthews. I think the skill set's stronger, but it's actually a pretty similar profile. Matthews, maybe slightly fewer strikeouts, right? Actually, he has a higher strikeout rate, I think. His is like 29%. Lopez is right at 28. Matthews has better control. Both are likely to struggle with home runs. So I think it's pretty close. I would give Matthews the edge. I think the stuff is stronger overall. The thing with Lopez is it's always going to feel, at least to a certain extent, like he's getting away with it because he's a soft tosser. He's got like a kind of funky delivery. He comes from a weird arm angle. All of his pitches move differently than you would expect. They have a cool feature on Baseball Savant where they show where a pitcher's average pitch movement is on this 4-way chart. And then they show what a typical pitch from a pitcher of a left hand in Jacob Lopez's case. And his are way different than what you'd expect. Like his 4-seamer gets way more horizontal run and way less rise, which is generally not what we're looking for when we're looking for missing bats, but weird is not a bad thing for a pitcher, and Jacob Lopez is a pretty weird pitcher. So I wonder how long you can get away with that. I wonder how long, like, is this another scenario where it's going to be up and down and they're going to get a little more tape on him and catch up? I would suspect that's the case with a guy with just okay, not great stuff, but I think it's worth adding him right now just to see if he can keep building on this.
It's a good point that you brought up that earlier this season, we did see a 3-start stretch from Jacob Lopez where he gave up he allowed just 1 run and he had 24 strikeouts over 19 innings. So that was back in mid-June where kind of looked like he was taking off. And then he followed that up with a 4-start stretch where he struggled quite a bit with control, gave up some home runs. And I think it's too early to definitively say that's always how it's going to go with Jacob Lopez, but I think he might be a pitcher that is streaky, right? Where maybe he struggles at times with control, and if he misses the spots, boom, he gives up some home runs. But also when he's on, we're seeing what he's capable of with some of these big strikeout starts as well. So 61% rostered. The Christian Javier thing is interesting because he looked pretty good yesterday, and velocity being up, and obviously he has a bit of a track record there. It was years ago, but he had like an ace outcome season. Yeah. So it is.
He was basically
possible that he can get back to that level with this increased velocity. So
he was pretty much step for step with Spencer Strider that year, if I'm remembering correctly, 2022.
Yeah.
Very similar approach too. So yeah, I think I would put Matthews and Javier ahead of Lopez, but I think they're all kind of in a similar bucket.
We'll have some worryometer pitchers later on, and I'll bring up the potential of dropping any of them for some of these names. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. One of the names who struggled quite a bit, I don't think we're dropping him, but man, Spencer Strider just destroyed by the Mets.
Yeah, 8 earned runs over 4 innings, gave up 3 home runs, only had 7 whiffs on 82 pitches, and now his ERA for the season is up to 4.69, I believe.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. Now, it's worth noting it's up basically a run in his last 2 starts alone because he's given up 13 runs in 8 2/3 innings in that stretch, but he hasn't had a quality start in 4 turns. His last one was on July 18th. He just hasn't been nearly as effective as last season. And if you look at the pitch-by-pitch data, the slider still looks like an elite pitch, right? It's getting a ton of whiffs, 50% whiff rate, 254 xWOBA. That's excellent. Curveball, I mean, it's a very small sample size. He's only thrown 83 of them, but that has a 52% whiff rate and really good results on balls in play. And then the fastball is just bad now. And you expect 4-seamers to have worse results both on balls in play and on swings and misses than your breaking balls, just because hitters aren't swinging at as many of them. You're throwing a lot more of them in the zone. It just generally, that's what happens. But Spencer Strider went from, in 2022 and 2023, having a very, very good fastball, 317 xWOBA in 2023, 29% whiff rate. This season, 370 xWOBA before tonight, 16% whiff rate with the 4-seamer. He's down almost 2 miles per hour with that pitch. The Stuff Plus has gone from clearly above average to clearly below average on the 4-seamer. The location has gone from slightly above average to slightly below average. Command was never Spencer Strider's strong suit. He got away with, iffy command because his stuff was so good, and now the stuff isn't quite as good and the command hasn't been there. So it's exactly what you would think for a guy whose strikeout rate has gone from elite to very good. And his quality of contact allowed has gone from, always kind of being an issue to now being a real issue. And so I don't know. I like you said, with Spencer Strider, I don't think there's any way I could drop him. We have seen a couple of ace outcomes from him this season. I think an 11 strikeout start and a 13 strikeout start.
You just don't want to risk someone else picking
Yeah.
him up and him figuring it out.
He figures it out, but
putting him on the bench, maybe.
I think benching him is perfectly reasonable. I think he's a risky start next week either way. I think the more interesting question is starting to look ahead to 2026 and what to do with him there. And one thing that I really am planning on doing this offseason is kind of doing a big deep dive on the internal brace procedure guys. We've had him, Spencer Strider, Lucas Giolito, Drew Rasmussen is actually a pretty big win. But I want to, we're starting the database that I have access to only has like 55 players having the internal brace procedure. Not all of them were in the majors. Not all of them ever got to the majors. So we're still dealing with really small sample sizes, but anecdotally, it sure doesn't feel like the internal brace procedure guys are coming back quite as good as the Tommy John guys. They're coming back quicker, and that's a trade-off that may be worthwhile. But yeah, it's I don't know. We kind of, this time a year ago, we were talking about, hey, Spencer Strider had the internal brace procedure, not Tommy John. That means he'll be back quicker. This is a good thing. Now I'm not so sure. Again, we're dealing with small sample size. Spencer Strider is kind of the only guy who's like an ace and at the peak of their career to have this procedure. Like Brian Wu had it in college. Lucas Giolito was 28, but had been having a couple of bad seasons before his injuries. So Drew Rasmussen, it was his third elbow surgery. So I don't know how much useful data we're going to have from this. And, we'll get more in the coming seasons as well. But I do think you kind of do have to look at the internal brace procedure guys with a little bit of a side eye. And, then you've got Shohei Ohtani, who's looked awesome. He also had, 6 extra months of recovery time before coming back and is being worked back super, super slowly. So it's a completely different situation. So it's all to say that just eyeballing it right now, Spencer Strider ended up being like a top 75 pick over the final 10 days of draft season. Once we saw him in spring training, his draft price just skyrocketed. He can't be that for 2026. He was the number 16 SP over the final 10 days of draft season. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
But I kind of just eyeballed it and think like right around 100, 110 overall, right around 30 to 35 in SPs. That's probably where I'm going to draft him. I have no idea. Like that is just completely pulled out of my rear end. But I don't know if I'd want to let him fall too much further than that, just because we'll have a normal off season. Maybe he can, tweak the pitch mix. Part of the problem is the fastball's bad and he just doesn't have anything else in that velocity range. He doesn't have a sinker. He doesn't have a cutter. Maybe it's time to start working on one of those pitches. If the fastball can't be, an anchor of his arsenal, maybe the velocity just comes back. Maybe the command's better next year. I still think both in the short term and the long term, there's too much demonstrated upside to just give up on Spencer Strider.
Yeah. He will be a very tough case to figure out this offseason. Scott and I spoke about this last week. The IVB on that fastball is also down a couple inches from years ago when it was much more effective. So it's either he has to figure out a way for that fastball to become more effective again, or like you said, either throw that pitch a lot less. Like now he throws it 50% of the time. Yeah. Maybe it's okay. Now he's throwing that pitch 30% of the time and just throwing more sliders and curves and maybe develops a changeup or something. But this iteration of Spencer Strider,
it's not working.
I'm not so sure that it's going to work. So he definitely has to figure some things out there. I did want to just mention up top, Roman Anthony, just insane game for him here. 1 for 2 with a sock in the shoe, but also had 4 walks and 4 runs scored as a 21-year-old, right? Like he's having success already at major league level. He's homered in back-to-back games. He is up to a .406 on base percentage already. yes, we want to see more power, more speed. Again, he's still super young. So, but that stuff might be coming, right? It's like back-to-back games with a homer. Maybe he's just starting to figure things out right now too. And he's obviously very athletic. So perhaps more steals could be on the way as well. They've thrown him in the leadoff spot and it's working out well. Obviously he's figuring things out on the fly here. And obviously the Red Sox have immense trust and faith in him. They just give him a huge long-term contract. So looks like Roman Anthony is starting to figure things out. Also wanted to mention for the Mets, a slugfest here against the aforementioned Spencer Strider. Just congrats to Pete Alonso, man. The polar bear setting the Mets all-time home run record, passing Darryl Strawberry here with 2 home runs in this game. He's now up to 28 home runs, 96 RBI on the season here. Yes, he had a month-long lull where he was struggling quite a bit, but looks like he's slowly climbing out of that. Also, Francisco Alvarez, 3 for 4 with a double dong, 4 RBI in this one. And since being recalled, he's batting .304, 3 homers, a 1048 OPS. A lot of that production was done in this game. So
although he had been, it was like an 840 OPS, I think, before this. And he's rostered in 30% of leagues. I'm not sure I could get him in the top 12 at catcher. I think that'd be really hard. But he's more lower rostered than Ryan Jeffers and Tyler Stevenson and Sean Murphy. And I'd rather have Francisco Alvarez than those guys, given what he did at AAA, given what he's done since coming back. I think there is still arrow pointing up for Francisco Alvarez. I do just want to say, wild that Pete Alonso is the Mets home run record holder. They've been around for 60 years.
Yeah.
253, I think, 252 was the number that Darryl Strawberry set. That's the Marlins all-time home run record holder has more than Pete Alonso. That feels weird.
That is pretty weird. I mean, I guess they are they have like a richer history of pitching, I feel like, and obviously like David Wright was going down like an all-time great path or being hampered by injuries and things like that. So it is pretty surprising. And the fact that Alonso has done it at what, like 29, like
28, 29,
30 years old, like he's under 30. So it's a testament to him, man. So
you know what's even more surprising though?
What's that?
Do you know who the Padres all-time home run record holder is?
Is it Manny Machado?
It is Manny Machado with 187. Previously to him, Nate Colbert, who played 6 seasons with them. Actually had 163 homers in 6 seasons. That's pretty good, but man, that's like they've been around a while too.
Yes, they certainly have. So pretty interesting stats, some numbers there. And shout out again to Pete Alonso. For those watching on YouTube, make sure to sign up for anybody, if you're listening or watching, sign up for the FBT newsletter. We're getting to the dog days here. We're headed for the final stretch of the season, but you can scan the QR code on YouTube, go to cbssports.com/newsletters, and you can sign up for the FBT newsletter for free. And also big thanks to those watching live. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe on YouTube as well. Let's take a break and we'll be back right after this.
What's he like? The happy-faced killer?
You mean my dad? Be glad you never have to know.
You think that you're so much better than me.
You're just like your old man.
I am not like you at all.
Welcome back in news and notes. Josh Hader was officially placed on the IL with a left shoulder strain, retroactive to August 11th. And we spoke about this yesterday. Brian Abreu makes the most obvious sense here as a replacement for Josh Hader. But I will point out, they have a lefty in their bullpen, Bennett Sousa, who already has 4 saves this season. So as much as we want it to be Brian Abreu, and that would be our guess, Chris, I guess the fact that Sousa has already closed out 4 games, maybe they go with him.
Yeah, and Scott brought up a good point yesterday that the Astros' primary high leverage guys outside of Brian Abreu are pretty much all lefties.
Yeah.
And so I could see them holding Brian Abreu or using him in a high leverage spot in the 8th against 3, really good righties or something. I could see that being the case occasionally, but Abreu is one of the best relievers in baseball by any metric possible. He's never been a full-time closer, but he's had a handful of saves here and there. I would think he's not going to be treated like Josh Hader, but I think he's going to be the primary closer.
And mentioned some replacements yesterday, but in shallower leagues, guys like David Bednar, Randy Rodriguez, Cade Smith, and then in deeper formats, you do have Jojo Romero, you have Jose Ferrer, and Phil Maton. Looks like he has kind of emerged as the Rangers closer there as well. So
Abreu goes right in the middle of those guys. I think at the end of the top tier, ahead of that second tier.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Brian Snitker told reporters that Ronald Acuna won't require a rehab assignment and could be activated from the IL before this week is over. Chris Sale tossed 2 innings in his first rehab start at AAA. He got up to 40 pitches. And speaking of rehab starts, I didn't write it down here, but we were talking beforehand, Chris, and you saw that Aaron Nola had like 11 strikeouts, right?
Yeah, 11 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings. Velocity looked fine, maybe down a half mile an hour. Looked good and looks, that kind of start makes you think he's probably going to be back very soon. So hopefully we can get something out of Aaron Nola in the final 2 months of the season. I also want to point out the Braves did say they were going to stick with a 6-man rotation the rest of the season. It's not like they have a lot of good pitchers, but I guess they have a lot of pitchers. So that's something to keep in mind with Strider and Chris Sale moving forward. They'll take a little hit, but, it probably doesn't matter too much. They get, Strider probably gets 7 more starts instead of 8. It doesn't make a huge difference, though.
I mean, it does matter for points leagues and leagues where you're chasing volume. And if you're in a weekly lineup league where you are often looking at 2-star pitchers and things like that, that actually matters in leagues like that. Yordan Alvarez could advance to facing live pitching this weekend. This is still just moving really, really slowly here for Alvarez. Jackson Trio is running at 75% intensity with no issues, and the plan is for him to begin a rehab assignment later this month. Jacob Misiorowski could begin a rehab assignment as soon as Friday. The Orioles announced that Felix Bautista and Zach Eflin will be out for the remainder of the season. So I think Keegan Aiken is probably the save source for the Orioles right now. I think had all their save opportunities so far. So.
Yeah, I saw one of the beat writers say it's going to be a committee, but I would guess Keegan Aiken's going to be the biggest part of the committee. I'm fascinated to see what happens with Felix Bautista next season. He's 30. He's pitched 1/2 season in the last 2, I believe, right? He missed all of last year.
Yep.
And, they don't know how serious the injury is for Bautista yet. I was reading the MLB.com story. They're not 100% sure he's going to be ready for the start of opening day next year. So, that's not assured yet. They still have to do some testing, but there does appear to be some concern about that. So, that's frustrating because he really did start to look like himself this season.
Jacob Wilson resumed a hitting progression. He's on the IL with a left forearm fracture. Dylan Cruz could be back as soon as Thursday, and he is 69% rostered. Don't think he's a name for outfielder leagues, head-to-head leagues. He still
could be
strikes out quite a bit. He has the upside to get there, but obviously he hasn't played since May. I think there's going to be some rust, so probably going to take some time here for Dylan Cruz to get back on track.
I will just say, Wyatt Langford is 100% rostered or pretty close. I guess he's like 93% rostered or something. And their expected stats are basically identical this season. It's like a 343 xWOBA for both of them. Cruz is a better stolen base threat. He's got 23 in 76 major league games or something like that. So I think there's a chance Dylan Cruz closes out the season really strong. I'm still not giving up on him, I guess I would say.
The Blue Jays reinstated Andres Jimenez from the IL. In 61 games, he's hitting .218 with 5 homers and 10 steals, 37% rostered. Chris, any interest in Andres Jimenez?
Is he going to play every day?
That is...
I know his glove is worth keeping in the lineup, but they've got a decent amount of dudes.
He started here, went 1 for 3.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't think he matters very much. But yeah, a very limited skill set, but you could get some stolen bases out of him if you need them.
Yeah, I know
that's kind of all he brings to the table.
His batting average is lower this season, but his XBA was right around where it should be. It's like 250, 260. So if you're looking for a guy that can hit 250 the rest of the way with, I don't know, maybe 10 steals or something, then that's your guy, Andres Gimenez. Frankie Montas has been moved to the Mets bullpen, and top prospects Brandon Sproat and Nolan McLean were mentioned as possible replacements for the rotation. We don't know which one it's going to be yet, if it's going to be either of those two, but I think we might have interest in either one if they get called up and thrown into the Mets rotation.
Yeah, I know Sproat is the name you probably know if you're listening to the show. If you know either of these names, Sproat would certainly be the one you're more likely to know. He's been pretty bad for about a year. I know he really struggled when he got to AAA last season, and he has really taken a step back this year.
His last 7 starts have been really good.
He's been much better. I haven't read about any specific changes to his arsenal, but that's one that I know a lot of prospect folks are pretty down on him at this point. So I would be more excited about McLean, but would be interested in either of them if they get called up. Obviously, it's a very good landing spot.
Landon Root is expected to return from the IL this Friday against the Rays. Logan Henderson is targeting a late September or early October return from his flexor strain, and the Giants option. In redraft leagues, you go ahead and drop Logan Henderson, and the Giants option Carson Wisenhunt to AAA and recalled Tyler Fitzgerald. Before we get to some waiver wire names here, I did just want to run through the Brewers walloping of the Pirates here. They put up 14 runs on 15 hits, including 5 homers. Again, the Brewers are undefeated in August. They are 11-0, and they have just really been ridiculous for the past month, 6 weeks of the baseball season.
You're bearing the lead.
What's going on?
Paul Skeens started against them today.
Yeah.
They've scored, I think, 8 runs in 8 innings in the last 2 starts that Paul Skeens has had against them. It's just been unbelievable for like a month and a half straight.
Yeah, and it was against Skeens, and yeah, that's 2 starts in a row where he has struggled against them. They're just a buzzsaw right now. If you look at their offense, they are second in WOBA in the second half so far. So when it comes to using your pitchers against the Brewers, obviously you have to start Paul Skeens no matter what. But, some of those fringier names, maybe you want to play it a little bit safer going up against Milwaukee right now.
The Brewers, this is unbelievable. In games that Andrew Vaughn has played, or Andrew Vaughn has started, which I believe is 26 games now that Andrew Vaughn has started with the Brewers, they have lost 3. They are 23-3 with Andrew Vaughn in the lineup.
Jeez.
2 of those losses amazingly came against the Marlins.
Oh my God.
They lost 3 in a row to the Mariners, Marlins, and Marlins. And then it's wild. Andrew Vaughn, National League MVP.
Since joining the Brewers, by the way, Vaughn hit another home run here. Yep. He's hitting .347 with 8 homers, 32 RBI in 27 games, an OPS over 1050. And to his credit, it's not just like, all right, is he getting lucky or anything? He is hitting the crap out of the ball. 92.9 average exit velocity with a 13% barrel rate, and he is 74% rostered. So I think he's close to a must-roster player.
Yep.
Kind of interested to see what happens when they bring Rhys Hoskins back. Like, I think they just have to play Andrew Vaughn, but Hoskins is making money and he's a veteran, so I don't know exactly what's going on.
And he was fine before going. Like, he wasn't great, but he was fine.
It's just going to be annoying if Vaughn starts, I don't know, maybe sitting out every 3rd or 4th game, things like that. So I think it's worth mentioning. A couple other names here. Bryce Terang, 1 for 3 with his 12th homer. Just all of a sudden a slugger in August. Where did this come from? He's hitting .351, 6 homers, 2 steals, an OPS over 1,300 in the month. Unfortunately, he did leave this game due to a right pinky injury, so let's pay attention to that. But it didn't affect him. He hit a home run in this game. Sal Frelick, 2 for 4 with 2 walks in his 9th homer. And I feel like at some point we probably made hey, if everything works out for Sal Frelick, he can be the next Stephen Kwan. And if you look at his numbers, he's hitting .293 with 9 homers and 17 steals. That kind of feels like a Stephen Kwan player. To the T, basically.
Yeah, underlying numbers aren't quite as strong for Sal Frelick. He strikes out a little bit more. So I think he's probably over his head a little bit. Turang is kind of interesting just because it's a conscious decision to hit for power. I mean, hit for power. It's a relative statement, but he's one home run short of matching his total from the first 2 years of his career combined. And he is, I don't know exactly, but he's got to be one of the biggest bat speed gainers of anyone in baseball. His swing speed is up 4 miles per hour.
Wow. From
last season. That's a really big jump. So I don't know. That's interesting. I don't think he's a 20 homer guy, and he's, given some strikeouts back to make up for it, but
you mean steals? Yeah. He's giving up steals.
Well, strikeouts and steals. He's striking out about 4% of the time more, 4.5, and obviously on pace for about half as many steals as he had last year. But on the whole, I think he's going to end up being a pretty similarly valuable fantasy player.
Yeah, it's just the shape of the production has kind of changed here. If you drafted Bryce Turang, you probably expected or wanted 35 to 40 steals or something like that. And instead, we're getting a much better batting average, but also more power, but less speed. So he has 21 steals now. His pace has gone way down. He probably winds up with somewhere 25
around
to 30, something like that this season. Christian Yelich, 3 for 3 with his 23rd home run. And man, coming back from back surgery, it's been a big season for him. He's got the 23 homers, 15 steals, OPS just over 800. And William Contreras, 2 more hits here, 2 runs, 2 RBI. And I think it's possible the All-Star break, maybe give him a chance to kind of rest that thumb and maybe get back on track here, a nice little reset. Because in the second half, Contreras is hitting .312 with 6 homers, 18 RBI, and a .940 OPS. So he's not all the way back, but pretty close to it so far here in the second half. Let's take a look at some waiver wire hitters from Tuesday's action. And Giancarlo Stanton continues his tear, 4 for 5 with 12 homers. And with his 12th home, he didn't have 12 home runs in the game. His 12th homer.
That would have been.
But, something. With the way he hits the ball, Chris, never say never. He had 3 batted balls in this game, over 110 miles per hour. The home run was 113.9, 447 feet. 12 homers, 34 RBI in 42 games, and he's just forcing the Yankees' hand right now. He is so hot offensively with everything that's going on with Judge. Obviously, they got to keep Judge in the lineup as the DH. I think they're obviously not going to play Stanton every day in the outfield, but I don't know how different him and Dominguez are defensively in the outfield right now. So,
well, I would think Dominguez is bad. And Stanton is unplayable.
Really
I get it.
It's really bad.
He's bad, but here's a key stat. Last season in 459 plate appearances, Giancarlo Stanton had 50 singles. This season in 157 plate appearances, he has 26 singles. That's not real. Like, Giancarlo Stanton is not a 300 hitter. I think he's up to 300 now for the season.
Yeah.
His XBA is 239. Last year, he hit 233. He hasn't hit better than 233 in a season since 2021. I think when he's hitting 240, he's a power hitter. He can hit for power, for sure. When he's hitting 240, it probably becomes much less necessary to find a way for his bat to be in the lineup every single day. I do think he's a better hitter than Jason Dominguez. And, if the plan is still for Judge to play the outfield starting next week was the last report, I think.
I think last week they said it was going to be this week, but now not so sure.
Yeah, okay. Maybe Judge is just never cleared to play in the outfield. That's possible, in which case Stan's just going to...
No, they're talking about it like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm just saying hypothetically. But I don't think Stanton is a must-start player in all formats. I'm not sure he's a must-roster player in head-to-head points leagues. But I think it's fine to play the hot hand here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I don't think he's a 300 hitter either. But, man, when he gets locked in like this, we saw it in the postseason, he can, carry an offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the guys carrying an offense.
It's just, for fantasy, if he's hitting 240 and he's playing, let's say 70% of the games, that's a pretty fringy player, even acknowledging that he's a great power hitter. So I will say, man, Giancarlo Stanton is not slowing down. Like, when he's out there, he's still a monster. This dude might get to 500 home runs. And it's going to blow people's minds when Giancarlo Stanton is a legit Hall of Fame candidate. He's at 441 career home runs right now. And he's still, I think, got 3 years left under contract or 2 years left under contract. There's a chance. There's a pretty good chance he gets to 500 homers. I'm just saying. Mentally prepare yourself for the Giancarlo Stanton Hall of Fame debates.
So last point on him, 60% rostered. That number is okay.
I think it's fine. Yeah. If he's available in your league and you need he's one game away from being outfield eligible, which also helps.
Yeah.
So if you need an outfielder, I think it's fine to play the hot hand here.
Anthony Volpe also having a big second half here. And when I say big, it's okay. He's giving us power and speed. He's still hitting 235, but 8 homers and 5 steals, 855 OPS here in the second half, 74% rostered. I think that number's probably right too.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Next up, we have Kyle Manzardo, 1 for 4 with his 21st home run, and last 21 games, he's hitting 358 with 8 homers, 20 RBI, and hitting the ball much harder. 91.5 average exit velocity, 17% barrel rate, 43% rostered. But, is he going to?
It's a little low.
Eh.
He doesn't play against every lefty. The batting average is higher now. It's 244 for the season. If he's a 250 hitter, I think 43% roster is probably too low for Kyle Manzardo. And the fact that he's hitting 358 over the past 21 games, I think it's another one where it's fine to play the hot hand. I don't think Kyle Manzardo is suddenly a batting average booster, but he's not killing you right now, and I think it's fine to play the hot hand with him if you've got a need somewhere in your lineup where he can fit.
Would you rather have him or Stanton if you're just looking for power?
I would go with Stanton just because he's about to get, he might have outfield eligibility in 2 days. So I think I would go with Stanton.
All right. Next up is Ernie Clement, who stayed hot, 1 for 4 with his 9th home run. He has homered in 3 straight. And so far in August, he's hitting 364 with 4 homers and 1105 OPS in just 10 games. Obviously, really small sample size, but 56% rostered. He has every infield position eligibility outside of catcher, which, could be useful in its own right, but he's hot now. He's a serviceable player, but I don't think there's a very big ceiling here for Ernie Clement.
I'm surprised 56% rostered. Eligible at every infield position is probably the best thing he has going for him, because that is actually a sneaky valuable thing to have on your bench. Just like, I don't know if my first baseman's going to be able to play this week. Well, I can slide Ernie Clement in there. I think that's fine, but he's not someone that I think needs to be rostered more than he is.
And Dalton Varsho hit another home run, 2 for 4 with his 12th homer, has 4 home runs in 8 August games since returning, and 12 home runs total in just 32 games this season. So we talked a lot about him lately. The exit velocities are up. He's hitting the crap out of the ball. 38% rostered. Where are you at on Dalton Varsho right now?
I have no idea. This is so weird. It's just, he went from being like one of these fringe power guys who had to hit everything to the pull side to have a chance to hit for power, and he was killing you with batting average, to now like hitting nukes. And he still hits the ball to the pull side in the air a ton. So he looks like a legit power hitter right now.
I really do think this is an organizational thing for the Blues, because Springer has done the same thing this season when healthy.
But it's not just like he's hitting the ball so much harder that's what I don't get. Like, we're talking about, he's 28, I think. Like, this is not something you usually see. But I'm 42% rostered, you said? 38. That's probably too low. I think Dalton Varsho, every 5 outfielder league, needs to be rostered, at least with the power he's showing right now.
Would you take him over either Jacob Marcy or Isaac Collins?
Over Collins, yes.
All right, and then one name in deeper leagues, Blaze Alexander is picking things up with the D-backs. 1 for 3 with a home run here, and so far in August, hitting .368, 4 home runs, an OPS over 1,200, and getting a chance to play following the Eugenio Suarez trade. Jordan Lawler could be up soon, but I think if Alexander hits like this, they'll find a way to get these guys in the lineup, maybe DH one of them or just move guys around. Any deep league interest in Blaze Alexander?
Only deep leagues. I don't think he's a huge asset for fantasy. Again, second base, third base, shortstop eligibility. That's nice. He's got decent minor league numbers, but it's as an older player. Counting stats are just okay. I don't have a ton of interest in Blaze Alexander.
The StatCast data in a small sample looks pretty good this year. Not the expected stats so much, but 91.3 average exit velocity, 14% barrel rate entering this game. So, he has second, third, and shortstop eligibility. I had bids on him in 15-team leagues before this week just because I knew the D-backs had awesome matchups, and I think they have a 4-game set in Coors Field coming up this weekend. So, it could be like a deeper matchups play, but the eligibility, hitting the ball hard,
sure,
there could be a little something there with Blaze Alexander. Let's take our final break, and when we return, we'll quickly run through some waiver wire pitchers, and we'll fire up the Worryometer right after this.
The crowd loves champions.
Gladiator 2 is an epic spectacle.
To amuse you is my only wish.
The glory is yours, not mine.
Very good.
Gladiator 2, rated R, now streaming on Paramount+.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Are we interested in any of these waiver wire pitchers? And 2 shallow league names. Michael Wacha continues to pitch well. 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs with 3 strikeouts. Last 6 starts, he has a 2 ERA and a .78 whip, but not getting strikeouts at all really here. And he's 79% rostered. Brady Singer bounced back with a strong start against the Phillies. 6 shutout innings, 6 strikeouts. If there is a pitcher more confusing about when to use or when he decides to have good starts, Brady Singer against the Phillies, you would think, oh man, coming off a terrible start, like he's
a terrible start against the Pirates.
Probably going to get bombed, right? It's just he's just been so inconsistent. He's capable of good starts, but he's allowed 7 earned runs twice this year, 4+ earned runs 5 different times. He's got a good slider, but doesn't really have much else. Chris, any interest in Michael Wacha here or Singer in shallower leagues?
I think we know who both these guys are.
Yeah. Wacha's useful though, man. It's a 3.88 ERA, 115 whip. Like
he's been doing that for like 4 straight years too. He's never gets the credit, but he's just solid. And is he a 2-start pitcher next week?
It looks like against the Rangers and at the Tigers, and the Tigers are not hitting right now.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I think it's perfectly fine to add Michael Wacha. If you don't have room for him, you don't have room for him. I don't think you're going to regret not adding Michael Wacha or Brady Singer. And Brady Singer, by the way, his 2 best starts in the last 5, or his 2 worst starts in the last 5 were against the Nationals and the Pirates.
He's so confusing.
Well, and then you look at the month by month, and it's like 3.12 ERA, 5.60 ERA, 3.80 ERA, 4.90 ERA. It's just like it's been every other month. It's been, Brady Singer's just, I don't think he's worth the trouble, personally.
I do think the Jacob Lopez and Javier and Zebby Matthews group, they have more upside than these names. Definitely Singer. But, if it's floor, stability you're looking for, points leagues, Michael Wacha, I think he's totally usable.
I think Wacha in a 2-star week should be close to 100% rostered,
3 other names here. Dean Kramer had a great outing against the Mariners. 8 innings of 1-run ball with 6 strikeouts. Had 14 whiffs in this one, and used his splitter more, which seems like a good idea. Jack Leiter, solid against the D-backs. 5 innings, 1 run, 3 strikeouts. Had 13 whiffs on 91 pitches. And Dustin May was great at the Astros. 6 shutout with 8 strikeouts. His first start with the Red Sox did not go well at all. But obviously this one was much better. He did change up the pitch mix as well. He threw more 4-seam fastballs and cutters, and clearly it worked. Any interest in these 3? Dean Kramer, Jack Leiter, and Dustin May?
Kramer's been good for a while. I don't totally buy it. He's down to a 4.17 ERA for the season. I think that's probably right. Like that's what I would expect from him moving forward is a 4-ish ERA, and that can be useful, but it's not something that I'm excited to add. And that's kind of true of all of these guys. Leiter, I still think there's a chance at some point the light clicks on, but even with him having a decent run right now, it's poor control. It's not as many strikeouts as you want. I don't think any of these guys are really high priority ads. I would rather have Jacob Lopez than any of them. I'd rather have Zebby Matthews. Yeah.
And one name in the deepest of leagues, Chris, you play in AL only labor. This could be a name for you. Yoendrys Gomez had a nice start for the White Sox going up against the Tigers. 5 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, 7 strikeouts to just 1 walk. Throws 5 different pitches here. Interesting numbers in the minors this season. Lots of strikeouts. He's 0% rostered. I don't know. Do you have any deep league thoughts on Yoendrys Gomez?
Not really. No, he's bounced around 3 different organizations this year.
I believe a reliever with the Yankees last year.
Yeah, and he was with the Yankees at the start of the season, was with the Dodgers for a couple of appearances, and now the White Sox. I don't know. His minor league numbers are okay, but nothing that really stands out as sustainable on a bad team. So no, I don't have a lot of interest.
All right, it's Worryometer Wednesday, so let's fire it up. I've got a bunch of pitchers here to talk about. We spent a lot of time on Spencer Strider. Chris, did you want to just put a number on that? 1 to 10, 10 being you're extremely worried. You couldn't be more worried about a player. 1, you're not worried at all. Where does Spencer Strider fall on that Worryometer?
Well, like a 10 if you were hoping he was going to be an ace this year, but I think we've moved past that. So it's like a 7 overall. Like I said, I'm not dropping him, but I don't have a ton of confidence that he's going to be good.
All right. Next up is Ranger Suarez, who had another rough outing this time at the Reds. 5 1/3, 10 hits, 6 earned runs allowed here. Velocity is down again, and that has kind of been a consistent issue here. Not that Ranger Suarez relies a lot on velocity, but if you throw 91, 92, losing a tick here and there, it could actually matter even more. 5 starts in the second half, a 6.59 ERA, and a 160 WHIP. Where is Ranger Suarez on the Worryometer?
Man, I try to avoid confirmation bias. When something happens that confirms what I already suspected was going to happen, I try to keep my guard up and not let that influence me too much. And we've been saying it all along with Ranger Suarez that he has these 3-month stretches seemingly every year where he looks amazing, looks like one of the best pitchers in baseball, and it has never lasted before. And there's always some excuse. Last year it was the back injury. A few years ago, I think he ran through the end of the season, like the last 3 months were great, and then it didn't sustain the next year. But I want to say there was some kind of visa issue that delayed the start of his season, or there was something
that sounds right,
that messed up his spring training. And so I was like, well, maybe that was it. But I did expect this because we're talking about a command over stuff profile, and you have to be really locked in. And this is not a guy who can afford to miss his spots by a lot. And now the velocity's been down for a little while. That's even lower margin for error. And it just, I can't say I'm panicking on Ranger Suarez and dropping him, but I also can't say I'm surprised that he's going through this. I think he could go out in his next start, get it right back, and finish the season off with a run of sub-3 ERA starts. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried, so 6.
Mm-hmm. Chris, does that sound in the background mean that your cats are now going to break your door down?
I did kick them out, and yes, they will be trying to bust down the door.
To your point about Ranger Suarez, last year, his final 11 starts, he had a 6.54 ERA.
And it was, he had the back injury.
Yeah.
He went on the IL. Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe he's pitching through something right now. I don't know. I haven't heard that, but yeah, maybe it's affecting the velocity and his ability to command pitches.
The other thing is, this is true of all professional athletes in basically every sport, but especially pitchers. There's almost always something that they're pitching through. We won't know about it for most guys, but you're always dealing with something. It's hard. Like, it's hard on your body. And I think that might just be the thing to keep in mind with Ranger Suarez moving forward. And he's a free agent. It's going to be fascinating to see what kind of deal he gets. At like $480? You going to get something that big? Probably should.
Right?
And it's going to be fascinating to see how aggressive the Phillies are about re-signing him given their rotation depth. And it's going to be fascinating to see what the market looks like for him. But it's just something to keep in mind that in Ranger Suarez's case, it might just be that like everything has to be perfect. But man, if it is, he can be really good. And if it's not, things can go downhill really quickly for him.
I mean, when it's all said and done, his career thus far is a 3.35 ERA and a 1.26 WHIP. I mean, that's a really, really serviceable pitcher.
It's very good.
A lot of it is.
It just depends if
months, and then he kind of slows down.
Do you buy into him as a top 20 starting pitcher? I don't think any of us really ever did. We've been through this enough before where it's like, we know Ranger Suarez is good. He's not this good sustainably. So yeah, that's I think that's where we are on Ranger Suarez.
Let's move on to Jack Flaherty, who had a rough one here against the White Sox. Rough, maybe. I'll let you decide. 4 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs allowed, but did have 6 strikeouts, 19 whiffs on 86 pitches. Curveball looked fantastic, had 12 of those 19 whiffs. His fastball did get hit hard once again. He was cruising until the 5th inning, and then everything fell apart. So I tweeted about Jack Flaherty, and I got a lot of comments that he was unlucky. He was singled to death. It was all singles, and it all came in that inning. So it was just kind of a snowball effect. He had a 533 BABIP in this game. His average exit velocity was 87.8 miles per hour. So, yeah, maybe he was a little bit unlucky. But on the other side of it, every hit that he allowed had a 280 XBA or better. So, look, I'm not saying these hitters knew to drop that hit in exactly right there, but, you know, more often than not, this has happened to Jack Flaherty this season. Usually it's hard contact, but I don't know. What do you make of the start, and where is he on the worryometer?
Well, there was a lot of loud contact in this start, and I'm just looking at the batted balls that he gave up, and I think there are probably 2 in that 5th inning that really stand out as looking unlucky. There was one that was hit 67 miles per hour with a 40-degree launch angle, and there's another one 66 miles per hour, 45-degree launch angle. And so you look at those and you say, well, those probably shouldn't be hits. Well, one of them had a 280 XBA. Okay, you can chalk that one up to bad luck. The other one had a 530 XBA. Like that's actually a type of batted ball that drops in for a hit fairly regularly. He had a 73 mile per hour single that was 15-degree launch angle that had a 520 expected batting average. He had 9 batted balls with an XBA over 500. So 9 batted balls that you would expect to be hits more often than not. And 3 of them were outs, including one that was three batted balls with an XBA of at least 580 that were hit at least 100 miles per hour that were outs. I don't really think you can look at this one and say it's bad luck what happened to Jack Flaherty.
It's also back-to-back starts allowing 5 earned runs in less than 5 innings of work. I say all this because I have Flaherty in a lot of spots, and I'm over it, man. I am just over it. I know the strikeouts are there, and the underlying numbers look a lot better. If we were playing out the season until the end of time, I would expect his numbers to, get better and be below a 4 ERA or whatever it is. But man, it's been really, really frustrating all season.
Yeah, and I mean the underlying numbers are better, but the xERA is still 4. So it's not like, oh, he's been so unlucky, and if it wasn't for the bad luck, he'd be an ace. It's like, if it wasn't for the bad luck, he'd be more useful, but he wouldn't be great. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on Flaherty being pretty fringy, unfortunately.
Is he droppable?
In shallower leagues, yeah, I think he probably is.
Somebody on Twitter asked me today, would you drop Flaherty for Jacob Lopez?
What's the next matchup?
So it looks like Flaherty's
a two-star pitcher.
And people probably started him this week thinking he could make 2 starts because he was listed as that. But
yeah, Houston and KC next week. I'd probably hang on to Flaherty.
he's just so frustrated.
I get it. It's frustrating.
You know, Chris, someone left us a 4-star review on Apple. They said they like the podcast, except the host is really reactionary. I'm like, well, that is kind of our job. We are supposed to react. I do react a little bit more on the players I have
you're
on my team.
You're on the more extreme end. I'm probably on the opposite extreme end, and I think, we can balance each other out.
I have always said that. Like, I totally get you guys are much less emotional about fantasy than I am. Yeah, I get frustrated. I think that's frustrating. I expect more out of him. So, like, when he destroys my ERA all season and has a 4.76 ERA, yeah, I'm upset about it. So, but you know what? Maybe I should just be upset at myself for drafting him. Shane Baz, another meh start. This one at the Athletics. You like the length here, 7 innings, but 5 runs, 4 of those earned. Look, some good and bad here. 7 strikeouts, 16 whiffs on 93 pitches. He threw his cutter a lot more, and that pitch looked awesome in this start. But he also gave up 9 more hard hits, 91.3 average exit velocity. His last 5 starts, he has an 8.28 ERA and a 1.68 whip. So where is Shane Baz on the worryometer? Is he somebody you could drop?
Yeah, I think he's droppable.
Jacob Lopez?
Sure. I'm not saying I think Jacob Lopez will definitely be better than Shane Baz, but I have not seen, what have we seen from Shane Baz this season outside of like 2-3 start stretches that make us think that he's not worth dropping? He's got an ERA near 5. He's got a 133 whip. Yeah, the strikeouts are good, but they're not great overall. 9.3 K per 9. Like,
at what point does prospect pedigree fade in your mind, Chris? Like the fact that he was such a highly touted prospect, should that maybe that's part of the reason people hold on to?
He's clearly talented. There's no question that Shane Baz is talented, and what's frustrating is that we have seen these stretches from him. You know, what do you have, a 14 strikeout game earlier in the season, had a couple of 11 strikeout starts. There's clearly a ton of talent here. What I'm frustrated with Shane Baz, and I feel like I did it with Spencer Strider at the beginning of the season. I did it with Lawrence Butler at the beginning of the season, where like I found myself out on the 3 of them. Like Baz, it was after the first like 4 starts when we were talking about him as a top 20 starting pitcher. He was getting all these strikeouts. And then I did this like deep dive, and I noticed that he wasn't generating any chases. He wasn't pitching out of the zone. He wasn't getting the whiffs. And it was like, oh, well, I don't actually buy this. But I went back and read that piece the other day, and I still said like, yeah, but I think he'll still be like a must-start pitcher. And I was like, I didn't believe that, but I was afraid of going out on that limb. And I did it with Lawrence Butler.
Stick to your guns, Chris.
Yeah, but then there are plenty of times when sticking to my guns has gone horribly. So I don't want to draw any large conclusions from it. Just to say that predicting this stuff is hard.
It's a hard sport.
And specifically with Shane Baz, worryometer 9. I think he's interesting, not good yet.
And the last name here, this is more like a drop-o-meter at this point, but Clay Holmes, a terrible outing against the Braves. Last 10 starts, a 5.10 ERA, 164 whip, 27 walks to 33 strikeouts over 47 and 2/3 innings. Still 88% rostered. I don't know if it's just a lot of points leagues and stuff. That's why they've held on to him. But even as a sparp, I wouldn't want to use him as a reliever right now. I'd rather pick up, David Bednar in a points league and use him instead.
Clay Holmes has been super iffy for a long time.
10 starts, man. It's a long time.
But even before that, the peripherals have been not very good since about the start of June, I would guess. And he was getting away with it for a long time, and maybe he's just running out of steam now and, looking ahead to 2026. Maybe, there's something to build on here. I think generally the experiment has been a success, but I don't see much reason to think Clay Holmes is like a must-roster fantasy option, even moving forward, like in 2026 and beyond. The skill set just seems like a Brady Singer type, where there will be good starts in there, there will be useful times, but I don't think Clay Holmes is someone that you're going to regret passing on in drafts next year.
All right, let's wrap up with some leftovers and starting with some hitters. Huge game for Jose Ramirez, 3 for 4 with a double dong here, and a bit of a slow start this season, but he's basically been a beast since the start of May. He's got 25 homers and 33 steals this season.
He's going to go 35-40. Yeah, he's ridiculous.
Yeah, he just missed out on going last year. He just missed out on 40-40-40.
Yeah, he might go 40-40 again. Like 15 homers in less than 2 months. That's asking a lot, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, like I'm 30-40. Obviously, is what I would bet on right now. But it could be like 35-40, 45. Jose Ramirez, and we just need to remember this every year. Like, if what you want in the first round of fantasy is safety, then Jose Ramirez has every right to be like a top 3 pick in fantasy, right? Like, I get it. You want to shoot for upside, Ohtani and Judge and maybe Acuna, but if all you want is safety, Jose Ramirez is about as safe of a first round pick as you can get.
He is just the archetypical number 5 pick in a fantasy draft. He's just like, if he's there and you're picking 5th, if he's there and Bobby Witt, Shohei Ohtani, and Aaron Judge are off the board, Jose Ramirez should probably just be the pick. There are a lot of great players out there, and that's no knock on them. But, man, Jose Ramirez is just awesome. And let's see, he had a stretch last year with 16 homers in 44 games. So it's not impossible. That's the only stretch over the last 5 years where Jose Ramirez has had 15 homers in a 44-game stretch. They have 44 games. So it's not likely that he gets to 40-40. It's possible. There's a precedent for it.
Shout out to those Guardians, by the way. They've won 10 of their last 12 games, and they are right in the mix for a wild card.
Yeah, they're only crazy. Are they like 1 game back right now?
Something like that.
No, okay, they're more than that, 5 games back, but still.
Of a wild card spot?
Oh, no. Sorry, of the division. Wild card, they are.
Yeah, they're right there.
Yeah, they're in a decent spot. Yeah,
which is crazy because they lost Clase. They were talking about selling at the deadline, right? Like giving up Steven Kwan and stuff like that. Aaron Judge had his first monster game since coming back, 1 for 2 with a sock and a shoe. He also had 3 walks in this one, 38 homers, 7 steals. Jazz Chisholm is running once again, 2 for 3 with 2 steals in this one. Has 7 steals in his past 12 games. Vinny P.
Baby.
Vinny Pasquantino, big game. 2 for 3 with his 21st home run and 5 RBI. Ketel Marte destroyed a baseball, 2 for 4 with a sock and a shoe. The home run was hit 111.7 miles per hour, 445 feet, and it was a go-ahead home run in the 9th inning. Alex Bregman enjoying his time back in Houston. That's 2 for 5 with his 16th home run and 2 games there, 2 homers in Houston. And Jackson Merrill, nice game here, 2 for 4 with his 9th homer. Just wanted to point out that over his last 25 games, he has been better. Obviously not what you drafted him to be, a second or third round pick, but last 25 for Merrill, 271, 4 homers, 5 doubles, 2 triples, 22 RBI, and hitting the ball hard. It's just the power, man. The biggest thing has been the power. It's
There's still a lot to like here overall.
He's probably the most interested hitter, I think, for me to figure out after the season, like what he was going through, if that comes out at all, right? Because he had the concussion and there was the concussion injury, and I think it kind of just derailed his entire season. But.
I mean, him and Jackson Churio are having very similarly frustrating seasons, and Churio, I think, turned it on a little earlier, but yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what we do with them in drafts next season.
Yeah, I mean, Churio, 17 homers, 18 steals in 106 games. He actually kind of
he ended up getting,
He was on a 25 or even a 30-30 pace. He was close to it. So, we'll see. Some pitching leftovers here. We had 3 good and 2 bad. George Kirby, nice start at the Orioles, 7 shutout with 7 strikeouts. Freddie Peralta, great against the Pirates, 6 shutout with 7 strikeouts for him. And Carlos Rodon, bit of a rocky start in this one, threw 31 pitches in the first inning. He loaded the bases with no outs, but then settled down, and it was 7 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, 5 strikeouts for Rodon. Anything on him, Peralta, or George Kirby?
Peralta's been awesome. The peripherals don't necessarily back it up, but if I remember correctly, he's been a guy who outperforms his peripherals. Not overall. There have definitely, last year he did, this year he is. So, yeah. He's probably more like a mid-3s ERA guy, but, good strikeout numbers. He's been dependable this season, so that's been nice. Kirby is back. Last couple of starts especially, he's looked like himself, and then the last 9 starts, 2.32 ERA, very few walks, looks like himself. Rodon, we needed it, for sure. It's been a really rocky stretch for him. He just goes through these stretches where he just has no idea where his secondaries especially are going. Like, I don't know if there's a good pitcher in baseball who misses by feet more often than Carlos Rodon does. It's like he'll sail his changeup, he'll sail his curveball, he'll bounce him 12 feet in front of the plate. It's he's frustrating to watch.
Oh yeah. One thing I have noticed is the changeup has kind of taken a step back here for Rodon. It wasn't good in this one, and I feel like a lot of the starts that I've seen recently, he's just not getting whiffs on that pitch and just not locating it very well. So that has been part of the problem for Carlos Rodon. Wanted to mention with Freddie Peralta, I know we don't ever talk about wins just because they're impossible to predict, but he has 14 wins this year. I mean, obviously pitching for the best team in baseball, that it's going to work out that way, but Freddie Peralta has never really been a big win guy. He doesn't, doesn't always go deep into his starts, but 14 wins, that is awesome stuff there for Freddie.
Really highlights how impossible predicting that stuff is, though.
Yeah. And then 2 bad outings here. Paul Skeens, we mentioned, rough one at the Brewers, 4 innings, 4 runs, 2 homers allowed. And Spencer Arrighetti struggled with control against the Red Sox. Only 1 hit allowed over 5 innings, 2 runs, but 5 walks to 3 strikeouts, not generating whiffs. And I still like the talent, I think, long-term for Arrighetti, but I think it's going to take some time here for him to get back on track.
And we don't have long-term.
True.
We've got 8.
I'm thinking like years out, but yeah, for this.
Yeah, no. I think in the you look further ahead. I still think there's a lot to like about Arrighetti. He will definitely be on my late round sleepers lists for next season. But if you wanted to drop him this season, I can't really argue against it.
Call to the bullpen for the Mariners. Andres Munoz got the 9th with a 1-run lead. He allowed 2 base runners, but picked up his 28th save. For the Guardians, Cade Smith got the final 4 outs of the game, and he wound up with the win because the Guardians scored a run late in that one. For the Rockies, Victor Vodnik got the final 5 outs, 3 via strikeout for his 3rd save. For the D-backs, Juan Murillo got the 9th with a 1-run lead and a clean inning for his 1st save. They've kind of had a rotation of these just kind of misfit relievers lately.
Yeah.
It's Juan Murillo, Andrew Salfrank, Kyle Backus, right? We talked about recently.
I don't think any of these guys are worth chasing.
I agree. For the Angels, Kenley Jansen got the 9th with the game tied. He gave up a solo homer to Ohtani, which I should have mentioned earlier, but second half is just ridiculous for Ohtani.
But also, hit into a triple play today.
Yeah, that was insane. He hit it right at Zach Neto, and man, what a heads-up play. That was awesome.
You can take Tungsten Arm O'Doyle out of the Angels, but you can't take the Angels out of Tungsten Arm O'Doyle or whatever the saying would be. I don't know if anybody gets that reference, but there's a famous tweet. Look it up.
All right. And then on the other side for the Dodgers, Alex Vesia got the 9th with a 1-run lead. He gave up a run on 3 walks and a hit. The Dodgers wound up losing that game in extra innings. Their bullpen right now is a mess. So they desperately need Tanner Scott back. Vesia has been a problem now. Trinan has not looked great since coming back. So big problems there for the Dodgers. To stream or not to stream on Wednesday, we have Shane Smith against the Tigers, Michael McGreevy against the Rockies, Cam Schlittler against the Twins, Cade Horton at the Blue Jays, and JT Ginn versus the Rays.
Horton, Schlittler, and McGreevy are fine. I don't love any of them, but they're all fine.
And then on Thursday, we have it's a short slate. There's only 7 games on schedule, so not much here. But Brad Lord against the Phillies, Bailey Ober against the Tigers.
Bailey Ober's the only one.
Yeah. Brad Lord is pitching well.
Yeah.
There's not much upside here, but he gets a lot of ground balls. He's limiting hard contact. So I agree
really
with you on Ober. His last start out looked much better. If you're in a deep league or you're just desperate, I think Brad Lord can maybe give you 5 innings of 2-run ball, something like that.
I found it, by the way.
What do you got?
It's a tweet from a few years ago. Every time I see an Angels highlight, it's like Mike Trout hit 3 home runs and raised his average to 528, while Shohei Ohtani does something that hasn't been done since Tungsten Arm O'Doyle of the 1921 Akron Groomsmen, as the Tigers defeated the Angels 8-3.
That's pretty. It's crazy to look back on, like having those two players on the same team.
The 2 best players since Barry Bonds, and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, they need pitching, and that's a pretty big key here for the Angels. We're gonna wrap there for Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning into Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.